before, he's going to play this year. What are his options? Hold out and lose a small fortune or play? A.J.Hawks' his friend. A.J.Hawks recently spent a week with Aaron Rodgers in Montana. This has been the summer of Aaron. Aaron's just doing his own thing. Nothing wrong with that. Totally defend him. I think it's good for his mental health. He's gotten away. He's been frustrated, so he hung out with A.J. Hawk. And A.J. Hawk continues to believe Aaron's coming back soon.
He likes to compete. Does that look like a guy that's going to sit out and retire to you? Aaron looks great. He seems mentally in a good spot. What have I said from the start? I said I don't see him playing anywhere else. That's what I said, right?
Mm-hmm. Day one, you said that.
Yeah, I said I don't see Green Bay trading him. I don't see that happening. I don't know how it has to work, but yeah, I still feel like he's going to be in Green Bay.
You know, Aaron's a smart, thoughtful guy. High IQ, pretty high EQ, it appears. I don't know him. Would it kill him to just once admit, I'm a little difficult. I'm a little needy. You all realize the Jordan Love pick made him upset, but 8 years ago, he had teammates and family members calling him out. Remember years ago when he would do Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football and he wouldn't mention his alma mater, Cal? He would mention his junior college. I was told, and people believe inside the building at Cal, it was because Cal fired Jeff Tedford 7 years after Aaron left. 7 years. Like coaches get fired. 7 years after Aaron left, they fired him. He held a grudge. Now, I can't prove that. There's a story about it I read this morning. But like this out to be the Jordan Love pick is what set him off. Aaron's been set off for years. He's been difficult for years. Just once, I wish he took that high-powered intellect, that high-powered radar, and turned it on himself. Does everybody realize since Aaron Rodgers took over as the starting quarterback, Green Bay has given him 8 players who have been Pro Bowlers on the offensive line, tops in the NFL. He's been given 2 offensive coaches. He's always had a star receiver, Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson. Now Devontae Adams may be the best receiver in the league. He's got a star running back. Yes, Green Bay can be stuck in its ways. Aren't we all a little? Yes, they can be a little rigid on free agency. Aaron's not rigid. I'm not rigid. Let's not make this about an abusive relationship. I will defend to the end, and I have, quarterbacks who are treated poorly. Matt Stafford, 12 years of dysfunction in Detroit. I'll defend him. Andrew Luck, his first general manager, lost. I defended him. Like, I'll defend that guy. Carson Wentz, I've defended. It appears, although I didn't know it initially, the owner, the GM, the coach, it was a mess in Philadelphia. I spend a lot of days defending quarterbacks who are having to overcome dysfunction. Carson Wentz, Andrew Luck, Matt Stafford. Green Bay is highly functional. 8 Pro Bowlers or all pros on the offensive line. The number one ally of a quarterback since Aaron started playing. I'm not even counting the first few years where he sat in the bench behind Brett Favre. They've given him number one receivers. They've given him offensive coaches. They're always, and they've paid him top of the market. Unlike Brady, he's not taking pay cuts here. He's always paid top of the market. There is a lot of dysfunction in this league. Green Bay's not dysfunctional. They're limited because most pro athletes don't want to live in a tiny, tiny town when you can live in Philadelphia or Los Angeles or Dallas or Atlanta as a single pro athlete. But that's not really their fault. It's just the Packers' reality. But do we all believe if Aaron went to another franchise, he'd suddenly be Mr. Optimistic, Mr. Positivity? We got to be fair here. As smart and as thoughtful as Aaron Rodgers is, could he just once turn that high-powered perception on himself and go, I'm not the easiest guy to get along with. I'll defend Carson Palmer, Matt Stafford. I'll defend these guys in bad situations. That's not the Green Bay situation. And the Jordan Love pick, I said it when they did it. I probably wouldn't have done it, But Bill Belichick drafted like 8 quarterbacks, some in the second round during Tom Brady's tenure, even when Tom was still in his prime, even when Tom was young. I mean, you got to have backups. You got to have quarterbacks. Aaron was 35. Aaron had been hurt a couple of times. Aaron could be difficult. But we just one time, once, that's all I'm asking, not twice, 3, 4, 5 times. Aaron's not the easiest guy either. Not saying I am, not saying everybody is. But let's put this in context. This is not a highly dysfunctional organization, nor was the Jordan Love pick the first time Aaron had been difficult. All right. What to do with Chris Paul? This is something Joy and I had talked about for the last 2 and 3 weeks. But I think what you're seeing, what I witnessed last night, here's what I witnessed. Ever since the Milwaukee Bucks put Drew Holiday on Chris Paul, it's felt different for Chris Paul. Drew Holiday is big. He is 6'3", 205 pounds. He is big and he's physical. Chris Paul is barely 6 feet tall and 175 pounds. And his production has fallen off a cliff over the last 3 games. 23 points to 19 points to 10 points. And in those games, he's got 15 turnovers in the last 3 games. Big, physical, strong Drew Holiday on Chris Paul is showing Chris Paul's age. And we told you a week ago, the Bucks are the older, bigger, stronger, more physical team. If this was in an octagon, it would not last a round. They're starting to wear down the finesse, the thin, the quick, the younger Phoenix Suns. Now remember, Chris Paul did not play for a couple of games in that Clippers series, right? The COVID protocol. So he came into this series fresh, energized, rested. And the Bucks then decided to put Drew Holiday on him, who's a big, physical, tough guy who plays defense. And Chris Paul looked old last night. We'll get into that more in about 15 minutes. But what you're seeing is the classic NBA chess match. A big, physical team with mostly one shooter, Chris Middleton, you trust, against a young, athletic, finesse team, Phoenix, with a lot of shooters, although only one hit last night. And what's critical here is in the NBA history, the 40 years I've been watching, old teams beat young teams, almost always. Even that Warriors team, which we consider young, Steph was only in year 6, and Clay was young, and Draymond was young. Andre Iguodala won an MVP. Remember that? Old Andre Iguodala. And Kevin Durant's got some years on him. So even when you have a young team, veteran players are so crucial. Why? Because when you get late into games and late into series, it's decision-making time. And the young kids get tight. Remember Phoenix against the Clippers? Remember they led 3-1 in that series, went back home to Phoenix? How tight Phoenix was? Now, they won the series. That moment, that night, it was too much. They just were. And last night, Phoenix was great until about 3 minutes to go. And Phoenix got sloppy and a little tight. This is part of the process. So NBA history tells you the old guys beat the young guys. Last year in the bubble, we remarked that it was the only time in my life I'd ever seen old teams peeling off and young teams flourishing, but that was explainable. The bubble had all these old veteran guys away from their kids and families getting depressed. Many players acknowledged that, and the young teams loved it because they were just going and playing video games. It's like AAU basketball, playing hoop, going back to their room. They didn't have the big families. They didn't have a lot of kids. So last year was a weird playoff year. The kids beat the old guys until LeBron and AD won the finals. Miami's a bunch of kids. And then Miami essentially this year reverts back to what happens to the young teams. They're hot and cold, up and down. So the history tells you Milwaukee should win this series. But I think Phoenix is a better team. I think Phoenix is going home. I think this morning, it depends on what fan base you are. If you're Milwaukee's fan base, this morning you're thinking, we're wearing these guys out, and we figured them out. And this morning, if you're a Phoenix fan base, you're thinking to yourself, hell, we were up by 7, and one guy on the entire roster was hitting shots. And that's what I believe. I think Phoenix was up 2-1. They were up by 7 points last night. One guy, Devin Booker, was playing well, and Chris Paul was awful. It was the worst playoff game he's played. The other thing with Phoenix is they've only got 2 veterans here, Chris Paul and Jay Crowder. Crowder couldn't shoot last night, although I thought he played well. He couldn't shoot, and Chris Paul was terrible. Phoenix going to have a hard time beating Milwaukee and winning this championship. They're good. Now, Crowder played well but didn't hit his shots. Chris and Jay Crowder need to be really good in these key spots. You cannot rely on kids. This is not the way the league works. Everybody gets tight. And you start looking at that Bucks roster, and Brook Lopez been in this league over 10 years, Giannis 8, Middleton 8. And they're old. They have been through a lot of work. I mean, Giannis and Middleton have been playing together for how many years? 7, 8 years? So, I will tell you this. Suns had 17 turnovers. Bucks had 5. I do not think that'll happen again. But we have to be fair here. A lot of those turnovers is because the Suns are fatigued from the Bucks leaning on them. And frankly, the Bucks are physical. And you turn the ball over when people pressurize you and push you and make you uncomfortable. So we've got a chess match. The last 4 minutes, the veteran team that trailed all night, they were behind and they're playing catch-up. The veteran team jumped over the young team because that's what veteran teams do at home in big spots. I still like Phoenix, but Chris Paul, the pressure officially on his shoulders. Here's Chris.
Yeah, I had 5 of them. You know what I mean? It was bad decision-making. They got, a significant amount more shots than us. And so, for me, I got to take care of the ball. If we got 17 turnovers, we shoot the ball too well not to have those opportunities to score.
All right. I still like the Suns, but I think in 7, not 6.